Your move, creep. Get your quarters. Hello everybody, Sparkster1701 here. It's time for another GoBot review. This time around we've got a Guardian GoBot. We're taking a look at Hanscuff. Hanscuff was one of the original GoBots released in 1984, and he would be briefly available in 1985 before being discontinued from the line. Of course, he also made numerous appearances throughout the cartoon, even appearing in the original mini-series, and would be the first Guardian GoBot to be seen severely damaged by the Renegades. Taking a look at this toy, one thing you can definitely notice is that he does have a fair amount of chrome on him, and given the fact that this is a 30-plus-year-old toy, having this much chrome still looking decent on him, that's an impressive sight to behold. Now, as for articulation goes, he's got what's about average for a GoBot or a Transformer of this size. Meaning that the primary articulation is in the arms. He can rotate his arms all the way around like that. But he also does have a joint here at the knees, so he can bend his leg at the knee. It's primarily used for converting him, but you can kind of put him in a little running pose there. Let's see. Unfortunately, it's got to have some heft to it or he won't stay, so more or less means he's got to stay flat-footed, if you'll pardon the expression. So, that's the only downside. You can't pose him like that, but you can try to make him look like he's running. And of course, now that we have him do that, there we go. Got the legs straight now, so he will stand perfectly still. Alrighty. Now let's go about converting Hanscuff into his alternate mode. First thing we got to do is we got to bring his arms upright like so. Then they should slide down to his waist area. And then you push them flush with the body. May have to make some minute adjustments given the system that they use to raise and lower his arms. And we turn him around to the side, and we fold up his legs to go flush with the body. And then there you have it. His alternate mode, quite obviously, is a police car. Specifically, he is a Toyota Crown police car. So this would have been likely a standard police car used in Japan. Now, as it was originally part of the Machine Robo series, so obviously, while I'm not exactly familiar with the car line, with this particular model of car itself, obviously it would have been based off of a car model from the late 70s to early 80s. And of course, it's not a bad replica. It's not exactly perfect, as the backside really doesn't get all that flush very well, but that could be due to age. And of course, a fair amount of the back bumper is missing to allow the conversion. And again, no paint app on the back window. That's a bit of a shame. I know extra paint costs money for the toy makers, but seriously, that little? But all in all, it isn't a bad replica of the car, and at this scale, it's also about the same size as a Hot Wheels vehicle, so it wouldn't look too out of place in a Hot Wheel with a bunch of Hot Wheels. Something that I do recommend for many of you, that if you're at a flea market and you see vendors selling Hot Wheels or whatnot, do take a quick glance, because if you see obvious seams like this, there may be a GoBot hiding amongst the Hot Wheels. It has happened before. Several months ago, when I showed you Crasher, the white version of Crasher, I found at a flea market, mixed in with a bunch of Hot Wheels and Matchbox cars. So it does happen. We got a little bit of die cast here on Handcuff, not a lot. It's predominantly here in the body, so there is a little bit of heft to him. And one other thing for us collectors to look at, rubber tires. Handcuff has rubber tires, so you'll definitely want to check them over for wear or any signs of breakage. And that's the one thing about the downside, the bottom side of looking at him that most of us won't care for, is the body and the face of the robot are clearly visible. Although that was kind of humorous to see him being damaged in the cartoon, since he was in police car mode when he got struck by one of Crasher's ground lightning attacks. And when he was done bouncing around, this was the angle we got facing us, the viewers. So, the folks at Hanna-Barbera took the conversion quite literally, it seems. Didn't make any attempt to conceal this, so quite silly, yes, but unlike in the Transformer cartoon, the GoBot cartoon, if you saw how they converted back and forth, you could replicate it with the toys. Unlike the Transformers, just due to predominantly their transformation methods were quite often sped up, and of course in quite a few examples it did not follow how the toy converted. Case in point, Hot Rod in the animated movie transformed differently every time. And the one method on Quintesson where the arms rotated in the back, across his back, that does not work on the toy. Alright, how well does Handcuff roll on the table here? Not too bad. About what you'd expect for a toy with rubber wheels. There we go, get a little oomph to him, and there he goes. Now all you need is some sort of police noisemaker to make the siren go off, and we're in business here, folks. But then again, if we had something like that as a kid, that probably is what got us thrown outside for the day. Now we get down to my thoughts. What do I think of Handcuff? I'm gonna go more with the middle tier for Handcuff. I mean, yeah, the toy's simplistic conversion mode does leave little to be desired by many fans, and I get that. Some of us would like ones that were a little more complicated than that, and while many GoBots certainly were more complicated than that, I think the simple nature on one like Handcuff does work out better for him. Also, by having some that are simpler, it does allow you to introduce these transforming toys to younger children, as they can figure it out pretty easily how to get him from one mode to the other. So I won't hold that against him. What I do hold against him is some of the paint applications, since like I said, the lack of some black paint or something here on the back windows is a bit of a detraction. I know many Transformer fans are going to gloat about Prowl being a bigger police car and whatnot, but in some ways Prowl also suffers from a similar flaw that Hanskuff does, in the fact that you can see a lot of the seams for where the parts break away on the toy to form the other mode, and that's a downside, but it's one that unfortunately we have to live with given the nature of these toys. Now, both Hanskuff and Prowl are based on real vehicles. Prowl, however, does have the shield marking on him that does identify him as a Japanese police vehicle, or at least a police vehicle in the service of one of the departments of police in Japan, whereas Hanskuff just has a generic police logo on the side, and for being a robot in disguise, it works a little bit better for Hanskuff than it does for Prowl. Not perfect, I won't say perfect, but it does work a little bit more in his favor, as Hanskuff looks more generic, and as long as the area he's in uses panda cars with the black and white paint scheme, for those of you not familiar with the term, that means he would be able to hide in cities like that rather easily, because very few of us take a second glance at a police car. Only unless we see the little lights flashing in our rearview mirror. That's when we really take notice. But most of the rest of us, we see it and we just keep on going. Especially if we're on the highway and praying that the speed gun wasn't working when we drove by. But other than that, the toy isn't too bad. And in the cartoon, he was used predominantly as a guard, so the police car motif does kind of work. It's not the best, but I can't really think of anything that would be better for him as a guard than to be a police car. That gives him at least some means of going after any intruders with relatively decent speed. I mean, a SWAT van might be a little better, but not nearly as fast, so I think we'll give the alternate mode a slide on this one. But yeah, the more I think about it, I think Hanskuff is a middle tier character. And that concludes my review of the Guardian GoBot Hanskuff. If you like the video, please leave a thumbs up here on YouTube. Don't forget as well, if you're a Transformer or GoBot fan, hit that subscribe button down below and join up within our ranks. Please also consider sharing your thoughts of Hanskuff in the comments section down below. This is Sparkster1701 saying I will catch you all later.